Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm really glad that you could be here to join me. My name is Amira Rayner, and I'm the Business Development Executive here at ISC Research. And thank you for being able to join me for the first session of our Marketing to Schools Masterclasses series. We decided to really kick off this new academic year with some masterclasses designed to help education suppliers already working with international schools or looking to enter the market. And in each session, we'll be sharing some insights particularly valuable to marketing and business development teams and ways to support your organization's goals. So today's session, as you can see, is all about content marketing. I'd like to make this as interactive as possible, so please feel free to put any questions and post them in the Q&A chat or into the chat box, and I'll answer those at the end. This session is being recorded and will be made available to all attendees. So let's get started. So first, I just want to introduce you to ISC Research and what we do. So ISC Research is the leading provider of English medium K-12 international schools, data, trends, and intelligence. So we process close to 300,000 data points every year. And we spend up to 4,500 hours on verification to ensure that we and you can really trust our data. So since 1994, we have provided education suppliers with market data and intelligence to support their international school strategic planning, their lead generation, and business development. ISC Research guides schools as well with their growth plans, informs investors on new school development, helps universities to really engage with their international schools, and work with other partners that are supporting the market too. We supply an online database, in-depth reports, data sets, and expertise on the market, in addition to specialist areas of practice within the international schools market. And you can follow us on ISC on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook to ensure that you're up to date on all of the news and resources as they become available to you. So for the purposes of data collection and analysis, ISC Research includes an international school if it is a privately operated school that delivers a curriculum wholly or partly in English to some or all of its students aged between 3 and 18 in a country where English is not an official language. Or we also identify them as privately operated schools that deliver curriculums other than the host country's national curriculum, wholly or partly in English to some or all of its students aged between 3 and 18 in a country where English is an official language. So ISC Research's data and intelligence collection is conducted year-round by our field-based research consultants, supported by our desk-based researchers. And we also use trusted local sources, market experts, and government bodies to acquire reliable market intelligence for you. The raw data and intelligence is then verified and analysed to produce the most reputable, current, and comprehensive research on the international school sector. Because we've been collecting and analysing this data for more than 25 years now, ISC Research is also able to produce valuable market trends and projections for you. So all we're here for is all about content marketing. And now you know a little bit more about what we do, I wanted to get straight into what is content marketing and what are the benefits. So I'll just highlight the elements that are particularly important when you're targeting audiences that are made up of educators within international schools. And by educators, what I mean is senior leaders, as well as heads of department, teachers, and other members of staff. The messages that you are going to be sending and the content you're going to be using really needs to be targeted for the correct audiences. Now, a really good takeaway from this session is what we've learned is that educators are lifelong learners. And this is probably the one fact to keep in mind when working on content that what you'll be using to engage this particular segment of international schools market. And that's how you can keep them engaged effectively. That means you really need to focus on topics close to their interests. If you don't have personas fully developed, then that's something you can work on. Then you need to have topics that are really close to their hearts. Share information that helps them meet their needs rather than simply just trying to sell you their brand. And show your audience that as a brand, you have expertise within your sector and share content that will matter to them. Essentially, you really need to focus and choose a format that they'll be engaged with. Keep your audience personas in mind, particularly their needs and their interests. If you don't have personas fully developed, refer back to conversations that you've had with your current customers to identify different needs across similar groups. And for instance, you can consider school sizes, location, curricula, or examinations when it comes to this. Similarly, you need to identify their interests. Use your own network to get some hints and tips if you don't really have a fully researched audience persona yet. Social media channels are a great starting point for this. Check the types or topics of posts that your current customers are involved in, or the ones that they're really positively reacting to on social media, and you can use this to your own advantage. You'll aim to create and share content to increase your reach within your target audience and essentially build trust in your brand. And you can plan to keep them engaged by making content part of your annual marketing plan so that you know what to create, what to post, promote, and then when to do so. Good content will contribute to both increasing your reach and also nurturing contacts. So this applies to all of your content channels, such as email, social media, videos, or even event presentations. So that's all about content marketing. So what I want to do now, sorry for all those on LinkedIn, but for those members on Zoom, before we explore the topics that resonate with international school audiences, I'd like to take a quick poll for those members on Zoom to understand your needs. And if you've joined us via Zoom, please do this now on your screens. Thank you. Great, so I've got your answers here. So I'm not sure if you can see these, so I'll just read them out for you. So we've got 74% have said that you, from how important is content to your current marketing strategy, you said very, it's one of your key channels. 22% have said fairly, not a priority, but regularly used. And then only 4% of you have said not at all. So your current focus is on other channels. So that's great. Thank you everyone for that. So whatever you answered, and even though 74% of you say that content marketing is one of your key methods, it's really important and it really plays a significant role in your strategy. And even if you're only just starting out, you will need to identify your trusted sources of information. And this keeps your messages relevant to the international school audience. And that's really important for us. So what I want to do on this next set is to really share some key insights into what our research is saying, and so that you can use that and keep on the right track. So with the market trends, I'll be showing you key trends at international schools that have been identified by our research teams. And once you understand the developments in the market, then you can relate your brand and your offer to these trends and make the content of your communications of far more interest and value, and therefore publish effective content, which is really key. So the pandemic, as we all know, has caused some major shifts for teaching and learning and community well-being, but it's not the only catalyst to these shifts. Student voice has been another great change in matters such as diversity, equality, inclusion, justice, and sustainability. So here's what we are seeing and hearing is changing in international schools surrounding teaching and learning. So as we all know, blended learning has really come to the forefront. So blended learning has taken on a real new significance. Of particular note are the increased use of flipped classrooms and a combination of synchronous and asynchronous teaching and learning. Schools are also exploring new assessment techniques, and formative assessment is on the rise. And even more importantly, diversity, equality, inclusion, and justice within teaching and learning content and practice is now an open conversation in many of these schools. And for some, it's already going beyond this open conversation and into the school community and the school ethos. And sustainability and well-being are no longer tokenistic, and instead are really moving into mission-led school-wide approaches, as well as the development of skills. So the development of skills matters more than ever, especially those skills that are preparing young people for the future of work and their future career paths. So when it comes to all this about teaching and learning, we've actually published a teaching and learning report very recently. And if you want to know a little bit more about the shifts that have been happening in teaching and learning, then that's available on our website. When it comes to educational technology, not only is this a massive increase, there's a massive increase in educational technology, as we all know, many schools are actually talking about a more strategic approach to their selection and their application of educational technology. Several schools have actually talked about trimming down of ad hoc solutions in favor of a more integrated approach to technology. And there is an increased use in tech-focused CPD. So both in terms of teacher skills to use technology with pedagogy and also in tech functionality skills for all school staff. More international schools are using AI, VR, augmented realities, and in tech functionality, that's really important. And learning with the students and the future career paths in mind, virtual reality and AI are really taking a forefront in that. EdTech advances are also benefiting student and lifelong learning for language development, tutoring and study support, as well as pathway and career planning too. And we've also seen a growth actually in the demand for online schools, as well as online subject solutions after virtual learning has really risen during the pandemic. So some schools are even recruiting online teachers situated external from the actual campuses of the schools too. So when it comes to recruitment in CPD, international schools sort of have extended teacher contracts to ensure that staff retention is high and to avoid recruitment challenges related to the pandemic and border restrictions. This extension requirement may have had a big backlash on schools in some countries, and some teachers might find it easier to travel more easily afterwards as well. So there have been high levels of in-country teacher churn, and some schools are actually offering incentives for teachers at competitive schools in order to avoid incoming border challenges such as visas too. There's a notable drive towards the hiring of locally qualified teachers. Not only is this in response to challenges caused by COVID-19, but more international schools are valuing and promoting the benefits local teachers actually bring, such as the culture and the language and skills that they have, and also the cultural understanding too. A range of teachers training models have also changed, and they're being developed closely with schools and in school groups. And then more schools are also addressing DEIJ in their teacher and leadership selection too. And then I think the big takeaway from this is that the international schools market has really shown a lot of resilience and innovation in this time, in this very hard time since the pandemic. And school leadership adapts to changes and keep learning going despite this, which makes content a really powerful way to reach them and raise awareness for your brand. So that's the main takeaway from the market trends that you can have. So another thing I wanted to touch upon is what resources do international schools need? So the needs of international school educators vary across their roles, the challenges they face, or even ones the students are facing too. So we've identified the types of resources most in demand within the international schools market in our recent research, which is actually summarised in our purchasing plans, the decision international schools make and how report. And it's worth pointing out that these are actually in addition to CPD resources because these tend to always be needed. So our research shows that school resources and school leaders are involved in purchasing. 90% of them actually are involved in purchasing classroom equipment and furniture, as you can see on the screen. 85% include in the purchase of physical classroom supplies, and 77% are actually included in the purchase of e-learning resources. So this information is really key because it can help you better align your product messages with your content. Creating content that focuses on market trends and shows your brand's involvement will make you more relevant to international school audiences as you get closer to both their interests and their needs. The report also looks at other resources such as assessment and feedback, administrative software, curriculum, content, and even more, which all have a real significant involvement from leaders. But don't forget about influencers too, and that's a real key takeaway from this. Teachers may not have the final decision in terms of larger purchasing decisions, but they certainly can influence them and be a strong advocate for a brand, especially if they've developed a good relationship or trust in the product that they've used in the previous job, or through free resources or content that they've received from a company. So that's really important to take away from that. So understanding your market trends can really help you develop your content and what you're putting out there. So It is important that, as well as segmenting your target audiences in terms of content, that you're actually directing them to also be aware of the need to choose. You need to be aware of the channels that you need to choose and what channels that schools use to select their suppliers. Our research has actually showed that two of the most trusted decision-making channels when selecting new resources for an international school are actually content-based, ironically. And these are peer reviews and brand reputation based upon media and awards. So if you bear in mind that your segmentation will be essentially to identify the best channels and formats to reach your target audience, search engines, social media, and review sites will differ from market to market and also from audience to audience. It's important that you map them to target your segments when planning your content. So taking the example of social media, Twitter or LinkedIn may be the most effective social media channels when you're speaking to school leaders, for example, but Facebook and Instagram might actually be more popular with teachers. And this also, it can vary from country to country too. So LinkedIn may be more popular to connect with schools in some countries, whereas WhatsApp and WeChat may be more useful in other countries. That's important to be aware of. So it's worth investing time in market research to understand your country regulations and restrictions that might impact your content strategy, but also important to identify what channels are the best for the country and also the type of people that you're trying to reach. So there is a lot of content out there to help support you with your goals. And this actually can be quite daunting for some suppliers, but ISC Research alone has plenty of resources that can help you get started and refine your strategy if you're already onto it as well, which apparently 74% of you are. So data is nothing without intelligence. Producing content to inform your marketing strategy doesn't always mean that you have to carry out your own research. Leverage trusted sources to take data intelligence and a data intelligence-led approach. So with our market reports, covering global market developments and specific market segments can actually provide the intelligence that you need to inform your business and track trends to highlight in your content marketing. So specific market segments can be countries, regions, or sectors, including online schools. And highlights of these reports are published in the news section of our website and shared on social media channels too. You can also purchase some of these reports on an ad hoc basis if you choose. So we actually regularly produce content sharing best practice and trends within the international schools market. And this content comes in the form of specialist reports and white papers, which can be downloaded from our website. And recent ones have included teaching and learning, the pathway from international schools to higher education, recruitment in CPD, and the future of assessment in international schools. So we also produce a podcast series, that one's called Heads Up, which often welcomes guest speakers from international schools all around the world. And our free online International School Leader magazine and our annual International School Awards, those celebrate the initiatives that are led by international school community leaders. And that's a really good way to raise awareness of your brand. All this content can help you better understand the interests and the needs of the international schools community. And this can not only inform your own content to raise awareness of your brand, but it also can help you with your product development strategy if your company operates in a sector able to sort of directly address some of the issues that are addressed in the market from these reports. So a little bit linking on to these neuro specialist reports I've been chatting about. Our special reports highlight some of the common practices and markets needs of the international schools. So it's worth mentioning that we'll be publishing 2 new specialist reports this year. So the first one is governance practice in international schools in 2022, and that will be available this October. And then the second is listening to international student voices, a DIJ project topic, and that's available in May 2023. So when it comes to having easily accessible data and intelligence that you need across the international schools market, our live portal, ISC Outreach, is actually a really powerful toolkit used by hundreds of education suppliers, all who want to identify and connect directly with the schools. So we've actually talked a lot during the session about the need to segment your audiences and target these particular segments in different ways so that your content strategy works. And the live portal provides access to a searchable database, which includes data on over 13,000 international schools, on over 62,000 school staff across all functions and seniority levels, information on more than 500 school groups, and details of school associations and accreditations, including their member schools. As well as data analysis tools, the portal includes a library of regularly updated country market intelligence reports, a newsfeed and an event calendar to support all of the aspects of your business, development and marketing strategy. And all these resources you need to inform your content strategy are at your fingertips. The newsfeed can be filtered by country or keyword, so you can keep informed of the most relevant updates in your target segments and keep your content relevant. And then the country summary reports, which highlight trends and regulations that may impact your reach, enabling you to adapt your plans accordingly and adapt your content. So whether you use our data and intelligence within your license to contribute to your lead generation, you want to grow your network, you want to refine your market segmentation, or identify influential organizations and key influencers, the database makes ISC outreach an essential toolkit for any marketing and business development team. So I've got a little time for some questions now. I'm quickly going to go into the Q&A box up here. So to see if there's been any there, but I've seen that, Nina, your one's already been answered about showing the link to the report, so that's great. So I've got a question here where it mentions about how can you use content for brand awareness and differentiation? So when you're facing you have a strong competition, let's say you have a very heavily crowded market, content is actually your best weapon. It's really good to have in your arsenal to differentiate yourself and stand out from the crowd. And as we've been talking previously about segmenting your market, understanding what your particular audience wants from you, that's where you can really tailor your content, where other competitors might not be doing so. So by having a close relationship with your audience and understanding them and understanding exactly what they want from suppliers, that can really help you raise your brand awareness and differentiate you from one competitor to the next. And by understanding that, you can really create engaging content, and then content that's tailored and specific, and then you'll see a lot more return on investment, I'm sure. I've got another question here. Can our reports be shared via social media? We do often on LinkedIn, for example. I'm not sure if you mean as in, can we share our reports by social media, or whether you can share them. I'll answer both, just in case it's one or the other. So we do share our, do we have permission? Sorry, you can let us know that you want to share a report, and we're more than happy for you to engage with it and share it. And if you've been engaged with what we want to say, of course, so you can share it on social media. The best thing to do, though, would be to contact one of us so that we can share you the proper link to it, so that they will link through to the website. That's the only thing we tend to ask on social media, but we're more than happy for you to spread the word and spread the content, of course. Yeah. Got another question here. So this one's more talking about sort of the startup side of things. So if you are sort of a new company and you've just started out and you want to understand what you can do differently, which is a really good question. And as someone new to the market, you'll be eager to sort of share your information about your product with prospective customers, and frequently updating your content and sharing updates on social channels is really good. In fact, sharing it more often and seeing what works, seeing what wording works better. Maybe a video, for example, on LinkedIn would be more engaging than just around a normal text-based post. By using and changing up what content you're using, how you're framing it, the format you're using, and the infographics, that's a really good way to engage your audience and see what works, see what makes you get more engagement with your content, and then you can keep going with that. So that's a really good way to do it. Also, product validation is also really good as well. So if you have your own customers who are more than happy to give you a review on your products, again, that's normally really good, engaging content for you to put on your social media or to put in your emails. You know, anyone likes to read that your current customers are really enjoying your product and why. So when sharing a personal/business website, how important is it to have both static and fluid content? So that's a really interesting question. I actually think my marketing team would be better to answer it for you, which I'm more than happy to do. And what I'll do is I will get in touch with my marketing team, who are far more better with the static and fluid content side of things. And I'll get straight back to you. I'll make a note of your name, Christelle. So thank you so much for your question. Regarding outreach, are reports charged for? Some are, some aren't. It really depends. Some are paid for reports, some are free. Our white papers are normally free. It also depends on your license. Some of these reports, it depends what reports you're referring to. So when I was talking about the country market specific reports, then of course, some of those might be included in your license and some might not. So it really depends on with regard to outreach, it really depends on what type of license you have. If it's a global license, then you'll have more, less. So it really depends. But I hope that sort of helps. So mixed match. Some are paid for, some aren't. I've got another question here as well, which is about how do you take a company that has sort of been using one channel for a very long time? I think that's what it's asking for. A channel for one, and transition into a different type of channel referring to content. I think that's what they're asking. So what this means is that, for example, if you've been using one way of marketing to your clients, let's say you've been using emails for a very long time, and you want to change it up. A lot of the mistakes that are made, and my marketing team always tell me this, is that people tend to think that content marketing is social media, which is wrong. It's not. It's actually what you include, how you say it. If you think about sort of the infographic side of things, if you're thinking about sort of the formats, how you're saying it, that's more what we're discussing. And I think that changing up your channels is a great way of sort of getting out there, raising brand awareness, and trying new things. And especially, like I was saying with the startup company, trying new things and trying different ways and understanding exactly what your market is or an audience are looking for is a fantastic way to do that. Teaching and learning in international schools, for instance. I believe you're referring to, there's two questions in one. So we're in the need of a point. Sorry, I've got to read this question. Yeah. That's a really, I can't see who's asked that question regarding reporting for Latin America. I am not the best person to ask this question to because it's so specific to reports. But I am, like I said to Christelle, I'm more than happy to contact our reports team and get in touch with you after that to give you a little more update on what is going to be happening with our report structure next year and what sort of content we might be more specific to your particular region. So thank you so much for your question. I think there's questions going on in the chat and then questions going on. There's multiple questions in multiple areas. Okay, so my marketing team just told me that we can actually download the Q&A afterwards, and I can reply to you all later if it's a question that, for example, I'm not able to answer here, which I think there's 2 questions at the moment. So that's all been great. Thank you so much for your questions, and I'll definitely get in touch with the relevant teams and reply with those relevant questions. So thank you so much. I think that's all we have time for at the moment with the questions. I hope some of them made sense to you. So thank you so much for your time, everybody. And I really hope this has been a valuable first session. We would love to discuss your organization's needs in more details and also find out if ISC Research can help you more in your goals and support you throughout. So do please book a call with us, as you can see on the website there, on our website at iscoutreach.com. And we can actually use this time to look at the data and the intelligence in a little bit more detail. And then you can also get your own copy of the purchasing decisions report that I mentioned previously. And also keep an eye out for next week's session with my colleague Kim Lynch, who will be focusing on segmentation for account-based marketing and lead generation. and she'll give you all of her knowledge on that and answer any questions that you have. And so until the next time, thank you everyone, and I'll reply to those questions when I can. Thank you. Bye.